Yo dudes, welcome to one of my favorite festive desserts. So our granny, the great May Flynn, used to make a trifle. And as kids, I used to hate the custard layer. We used to always pick the custard out and chuck it on the floor, and we'd scoff the rest. And as I've kind of got older or matured in a slight little way, I love custard now, and this is one of my favorite desserts. And we've kind of learned how to take granny's recipe, one, veganize it, and two, how to layer it up beautifully so it actually looks super impressive and everyone wants to eat trifle. So, we're gonna start off by making the sponge layer. So into a large mixing bowl, we're gonna sieve in 200 grams of a plain white flour. If you're celiac, just use gluten-free flour. Next step, we have 150 grams of caster sugar. I've got half a tablespoon of baking powder, that's our rising agent. And then just to make sure it really rises, I have a quarter teaspoon of baking soda. Make your finger into a nice claw. You don't necessarily have to, and just give it a nice mix. I always love touching flour. Obviously make sure your hands are clean. Give it a nice mix and just make it well in the middle. Okay, time for our wet ingredients. We have 170 ml of plant milk of choice. What is plant milk, I hear you ask? Oat milk, almond milk, rice milk, soy milk, whatever you prefer, or yeah. Anyway, next step, 60 ml of a neutral tasting olive oil. I'm simply using a sunflower oil. That will emulsify or separate. I've got half a tablespoon of vinegar. This is just gonna simply react with the baking soda to create a lighter sponge. And I've half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Whiskey. Pour it into the well. We want to fold this together and not over mix it because we really don't want to develop gluten, because otherwise we'll end up with a tight sponge. So it's just kind of folding it together until all the flour is fully incorporated. Okay, we have an 8-inch springform tin which we have lined with baking parchment. Springform simply means I can remove it, or removable base as it's known. Pop it down, we're gonna scoop in our batter. Just give it a little bang just to remove any bubbles. I've preheated the oven to 180 degrees Celsius. I'm gonna bake this for around 25 to 30 minutes until a skewer comes out dry. Okay, time now for our epic vegan custard. So into a saucepan, I have 500 ml of oat milk or non-dairy milk of choice. Just have that on a medium heat. Take your sieve and we're gonna sieve in 80 grams of icing sugar. So what we're trying to do here is we're just trying to incorporate the icing sugar. So as soon as that's kind of melted down and the crystals have broken down, it's time to get our cornstarch. So into a jug, I'm gonna take 200 ml and I'm just gonna pour that in. Just 200 ml approximately. So this is just an easier method to incorporate the cornstarch without it clumping. So just sieve in, we have 5 tablespoons of cornstarch. We're gonna sieve it in. In some kitchens, they call this to make a slurry. I've forgotten the more technical term. That might sound more polite, but when you do mix it with a smaller volume of this, it just means it doesn't clump. Now that's fully incorporated and there's no lumps, we're just gonna pour it back into the main mixture. And last and final thing, I've 1/8 of a teaspoon of turmeric, which might seem like very little, but it kind of just means you get that yellow hue without it going kind of extra luminous. Okay, you'll see it starting to thicken up beautifully and start to look great. As soon as it starts to come to the boil, turn it right down and we're just gonna turn it off. Just keep whisking it just to avoid any part of it catching or burning. And don't worry, as this cools, it will set fully. So you'll see it's nice and rippled and super smooth texture. As this cools, it will set significantly thicker, so don't worry if it's not the texture you're desiring. Okay, top tip to allow it to cool without it developing a skin on it is to just put a bit of cling film, or what is known as cellophane in North America, across the top just like this to avoid it skinning. In essence, in a weird way, what's happening is we're giving it a skin before it has the opportunity to grow one. I'm gonna pop that into the fridge just to kind of cool down before we assemble our dessert. Okay, time to make a berry compote. So we have 500 grams of frozen berries. I've left 250 separate just to kind of thaw, and we wanna keep these for texture. The other 250 I'm gonna actually stew down now to make a berry compote. So, in a medium-sized saucepan, putting it on low to medium heat, I have 2 tablespoons of icing sugar in here. Although in here it will sit on the surface, as we mix it through, it'll just catch any of the loose berries and it'll just sweeten them, because this is a lovely dessert. So watch this for nice. And we're gonna whisk this nicely. I'm just gonna take a few of the bigger berries just to put on the top as decoration. this looks really impressive, and when there's the contrast of the bright colors and the white cream, it just kind of really pops those Christmas colors. So I stew down the berries and icing sugar just for about 3 to 4 minutes until it's become more homogeneous. And I'm gonna pour it into a bowl to allow it to cool before we assemble this dish. I'm gonna pop that into the fridge just to allow it to cool while we make our cream. Okay, time to make some vegan cream. So we're using 350 grams of vegan double cream. You will be able to get it in most supermarkets. It's more readily available. If you can't, you can simply use coconut cream instead. So in that goes, I'm gonna use a stand mixer just to be lazy because there's lots of components here. Next step, just to make it a little sweeter in honor of my granny, we're gonna add in 80 grams of icing sugar. Half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. We're gonna pop that in and whisk it until we get lovely stiff peaks. Ooh, that's stiff cream. Whip until you get lovely stiff peaks. This is magnificent. Oh, I love cream, I love cream. I love cream. Okay, here's a way just to make a simple Pyrex bowl look a little fancier. So take a fancy little glass like that, or glass of choice, turn it upside down, and suddenly your trifle, or your granny's trifle, is gonna look more impressive. Okay, time to assemble this masterpiece. So we've taken our sponge out, we've allowed it to cool, and here's a kind of easy way without having a cheese wire to cut our sponge in two. An easy way to do it is to take a serrated knife, make sure the tip is touching a higher point that's approximately half, and then slowly just cut across. Okay, here we are just to show you that worked out beautifully. 3, 2, 1. Hey, there's our sponge. Okay, nice way to get a perfectly two-tiered sponge. So naturally the base here has a natural bevel in it, so this is perfect to go in the base. I'm gonna start with a little bit of that. So I'm just gonna slice it in to meet the bottom in here. I'm gonna come into the center here, and I'm just gonna cut across. There we go, this is our base sponge layer. Okay, so as you can see, the sponge here naturally has a nice side here. So I'm gonna take these whole strawberries. These are frozen ones, and we're gonna pop them just down the side here, upside down, and they will naturally stay in place there. Okay, once you have your strawberries in, we're gonna take a nice generous layer of cream and just spread it around. You wanna try to get it right down in between the layers. Once you take your cling film or cellophane or plastic wrap, just give your custard a nice mix, and we're gonna pop in a nice layer of custard in on top of the cream. So pop in all the custard, this is our main custard layer, and bring it right to the edges. So with our sponge, we're just gonna cut off a small, tiny little bit, about 1.5 centimeters all the way around. So ours, I cut it ever so slightly too small, so don't be afraid. A good chef can always hide their mistakes. We're gonna put a little bit of cream, just that'll act as our insulation before we go with berries again. Next we have our berry compote. It's cool, it looks great, it's glorious. This is gonna add a nice, lovely kind of colorful layer through this. Try to bring it right to the edge just so you can see the layers. And then we're gonna finish with a nice generous layer of cream on top. Just be careful when you're adding the cream on here, because we don't want it to bleed too early. I love trifle, I love trifle, I love trifle! Okay, time to start to finish this off. Pop her on the service bit. I have some toasted flake almonds, which I'm gonna just drizzle around the top. These will add a nice bite. Only add this in just before you serve it, because otherwise they're just gonna go soggy. And finally, just finish it off with a few berries here. Okay, there you are. This is so impressive. Granny, I know you're not here with us, but I think I've done you proud here. This is so delicious. We made a small little one just, I didn't want to ruin that one. I kind of want to keep that one for Christmas. So anyway, without further ado, here we go. Trifle in honor of the great May Flynn. I actually named my daughter. Well, we as in me and my wife. Anyway, here we go. Vegan epic trifle in honor of my Granny May Flynn. Like, it brings back memories of being at my granny's for Christmas, and she used to have a puppet that was called Mickey the Monkey. Anyway, this is magnificent, this is nostalgic, this is so tasty. It presents beautiful and it's well worth trying. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for being a part of this channel. We really love creating recipes and we hope you enjoy it too. If you do want to learn more about how to cook, we've got our Ultimate Vegan Cooking course and our Ultimate Vegan Baking course, as well as lots of courses to help you or your family or friends to get healthier. So thanks for watching. Link down below to learn about the courses and sending lots of love. Bye.